I didn't expect to fall in love, but these new German destroyers are amazing. Way more fun than the old line. Today I'll show you why you should keep an eye out for these things and how to play them once you get your hands on them. For reference, this is the alternative line of the German destroyers, moving more towards Elbing than the Z-46. They have massively powerful guns at the cost of bad torpedoes, bad concealment and maneuverability, and no sonar. I know, it sounds rough. But trust me, once you get the hang of these things, you're going to love them. The guns are the bread and butter of this thing, and of course they're going to feature big alpha numbers. The JG Wentworth here, shell damage on the AP build, 4,500 per shell. That's the same amount of damage as a Charles Martel AP round, or a P-Bag AP round, or Albemarle, however you want to slice it. These AP shells clap cheeks. To make the guns even better, they're also incredibly accurate. They're going to go wherever you shoot them, unlike French destroyers and sometimes Soviet ones, which this line kind of reminds me of. It's about the same sort of play style, except these German DDs here are super accurate. If you miss, it's because you aimed poorly, and hey, with me behind the helm, that's bound to happen. So settle in for a nice replay here, though. This is going to be an epic game. The range of these guns, also super good. On one build I had here on the Maerker, I had it up to 14.1 kilometers. And from my testing, the AP does seem to have improved pin angles, just like Elbong and ZF6. Oh, and quarter pin on the HE shells. Although, like in this sequence right here coming up when the enemy destroyer sails up towards me, you're going to want to use the AP most of the time in this ship, because when you have the correct angle on enemy DDs, and enemy battleships and enemy cruisers, you can absolutely decimate them. One salvo, 6k damage. Second salvo, we're up to about 11,000, and ZF6 didn't really have a chance to respond to that. The AP shells on this thing are murderous. Now there is a caveat with that, and I'm going to show you a little bit more later. You know, when you're fighting destroyers, you have to be careful because of overpins, and you have to be careful if they bow tank. You know, there's a little bit more thought involved in it. But when you get them to work, man, they work. So the game in the background, it's going to be a bitter fight till the very end. It is a division carry, absolutely, and I'm with my division mates, my buddies, Senk and Zwei, both of them incredible players. And yeah, we were just bombing around having a fun time last night, and this game happened. The Torpedoes. We threw them down here, but really we're not expecting much out of them. I would call them sea mines rather than torpedoes, because they only go 52 knots in the water, slower than some Le Fantasques sailing around out there. On Maerker, they have a decent range, 8 kilometers. They have mediocre damage and reload. They're really too slow to rely on. Most of the time, they're going to be floating along there, and your enemies are going to sail on by and wave. But let's take a look at my recommended build. Reload module in slot 4, although I did test the range module. Bay with everything poured into the guns. Rumble and Mordov. Now I know those are pay-to-win commanders, so if you don't have those guys, I think Sims would help beef up your HP pool even more. Blue would be a nice speed buff because this thing is slow. And maybe Von Essen or Zenbing for improved AP angles. There are lots of options out there. Now for the skills, I did choose Observant Rage, Mortar, and Reaching Out. All of these to really beef up the guns, the reload, the range, the damage. Yes, it's going to make your concealment worse, but let's not worry about that. It's 6.2 kilometers in this game on this build, but again, I would try to think of yourself as a miniature cruiser without a citadel, and you'll start to get the hang of how to play these destroyers. Now the opening sequence here, we ended up with both destroyers on our side, an Iowa and a Jean Bart. The ZF6 and the COG are off the board, and Senk's going to deal some damage here to this Iowa. Zwei and I, though, we're just going to have to kind of kite out, stay alive, and see if we can burn these guys down. These ships are tanks. I don't know if you noticed the HP numbers. They're kind of ridiculous. Z31, for instance, has more stock HP at tier 6 than Kaba or Kleber at legendary tier. It's nuts. And Maerker here has about the same amount of health as Sejong, the tier 8 cruiser. They're very tanky, and they're perfect for open water shooting. You can tank an immense amount of damage for your team. But that's not all. Since you actually have some armor, like elbing the middle section of these ships, has 25 millimeters of armor. It's a great deterrent to enemy destroyers who, if they're firing 127 millimeter guns like Fletcher, they're going to shatter harmlessly on this big mid portion of the ship. Granted, if they're smart, then they could just switch to AP and you're in trouble. But most of the players in this game don't know that, so that's a big plus. And then again, you can angle against their AP. But yes, the start of this game isn't looking good, man. We're down. We have 4 ships left. They've only lost 2 DDs, the ones that we killed over here on our side. So it's off to a pretty rough start. We're going to have our work cut out for us if we're going to win this one. Now, maybe you also noticed no sonar, unlike the Z23 and others in that line, and that's just a balancing factor, because if you had a DD with these insane of guns, cruiser health pools, you could win nearly every early game engagement against enemy DDs. Just push in, sonar, smoke, cap, easy. It would be way too strong. So it hurts this side of the line a little bit without sonar, but honestly, you're just going to have to learn to live without it. You have a different role. You know, unlike Z23 and Z46, being in the cap and sonaring, you're kind of more on the fringes, playing from a little farther back, dealing damage until the time is right, and then you can absolutely push in. The guns, like mentioned, they're so amazing. What we didn't really talk about, though, is the HE that we're going to pull out here to use on the Iowa to try to get a permanent fire. That's all we need to take him out of the match. It has a decent fire chance, 12%. That's okay. But what's good about it is the quarter pin, meaning it will deal damage even when it hits 37 millimeters of armor, I believe. Instead of shattering like most HE, it's going to pin a lot more armor. The bad part about it is the alpha damage is very low, 1800 on these particular shells, so the HE DPM is kind of bad. I would really say 80% of the time in this destroyer, you're going to want to fire the armor-piercing rounds. Again, like we talked about against destroyers, you're just going to have to be careful of the angles that they are at when you're shooting, but really, this thing will gobble up DDs like Thanksgiving dinner, easily chunking them for 3 to 5k. Once we're done talking about the guns, though, that's when things start to get a little less fun for this ship. It's big, and it is slow for starters. At 31.5 knots, you're the slowest Tier 7 destroyer by a long shot. So that's why we're going to skip ahead in this video a little bit, because I don't want to relive sailing for 4 minutes again. This thing is pretty darn slow. The speed boosts, they're going to mean a lot to you in this destroyer, and you're going to have to hang on to them and use them for when the time is right. You know, don't open up the sequence, the start of your game, with wasting one of your speed boost consumables, because you might need it later on in the match to get back into position. Enemy battleships and ships like that pushing you, like Iowa, you can't really outrun them, so save your speed boost for times like that as well. Throwing a speed flag on there would be very good as well. And finally, the concealment is not very good. So dipping your toes into caps early game is a little more scary. And this builds 6.2 kilometers, so you're basically going to get outspotted by anyone. It's a ship where I feel like you want to set up in a defensive position and let people try to push into you, which is exactly what we're doing right here. We have the advantage of caps, so we're going to position and let these guys push into us. La Fantasque comes around the corner, and we're going to try to reset him. We did smoke, which was a bit of a panic smoke, but I was afraid of this Italian battleship over here just wrecking our face. But let's back up and reacquire the La Fantasque and see what this AP can do to him. We'll try to stay unspotted, and now we've got some torpedoes to dodge, so it's getting kind of dicey here. I'm guessing that he will get us acquired when he gets within 2 kilometers, so I'm hoping Zwei can help me finish him off really quickly, and I think one more salvo, maybe 2, will do it, and then I just need to survive one more salvo from the Italian battleship over there, and we barely do, hanging on with 234 health. Now we still have the points advantage, so really all we need to do is stay alive. Win smarter, not harder, right? Alright, we're gonna try. Even if they sail into the cap now, I'm guessing by how much time is left in the game, with a couple resets we would definitely get them. What I'm worried about at this point is the Atago. It's fast, it's stealthy, and it could really sneak up here and kill me pretty easily. So we're gonna try to kind of escape and reset. Now, with the Elbing, I remember talking about that ship, and I had a lot of bad things to say about it being a destroyer. You know, it's a really good ship, it's very fun, but it's a bad destroyer, right? You're taking up a DD spot that could be out spotting, capping, contesting caps, hunting DDs, things like that. And that may be a little bit true of the Maerker, but I suppose the reason I like this thing so much and this line so much is just because it's different. You know, the German DDs, they're so vanilla, they're so mediocre. The Z-23 is the most mediocre destroyer at tier 7 in my eyes. You know, it kind of does a little bit of everything like the Fletcher. It's a jack of all trades type ship. It has good concealment, decent torpedoes, decent to bad guns, sonar and smoke. You know, it does a little bit of everything. And it's boring because of that. Maybe it would be better to take that to some sort of a ranked battle than the Maerker, sure, yes. But for now, these things are just a delicious flavor, something different, something new, and I'm loving the AP. And it seems like every tier you go up, it just gets a little bit more pronounced and a little bit more fun, and I'm very excited about the Schultz and what that is going to be like. Basically, it should almost be Elbong levels of AP. I'm assuming... Okay, there was the Atago, we got him cleaned off the board, that he showed enough broadside. Also, the AP on this thing is going to be magnificent against cruisers if they give you the opportunity. And basically, even if Zwei died right now, I could sail off into the sunset and carry this one on points. Although I do want the Kraken. I don't know if it's going to happen, though. This guy has a lot of health, and he's playing kind of passive over there. But anyways, that is my take on these German all-destroyers. Maybe they're not going to replace the Frieslands, the Loyangs, the Fletchers, the Lightnings at the tier, but Maerker is really freaking fun, and I would highly recommend it. Just don't forget, you are a mini cruiser, not a destroyer, and you're going to have a lot more fun. And it's not to say once you clean the board off a little bit and get some ships out of here, out of the match, that you can't move around, cap, spot, and do other things. It's really a pretty versatile ship. It's just at the beginning you're going to have to work on getting damage, staying alive, prop juking battleships, making them miss salvos. So it's a good way to tank damage for your team and to deal damage to the enemy team. This thing is an absolute blast. I would highly recommend it. This battle's wrapping up, so I think I'm going to wrap this one up here. Let me know what you guys think of this alt line in the comment section. What do you guys think about those French cruisers? Are they any good? I haven't tested them yet. That's probably going to be next. I would love to hear from you, so leave me a comment down below. If you liked the video, leave a like and consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming your way. We still have a lot of this update to cover, and we have a stream coming up on Sunday that you should tune into. We're going to waste a lot of money on crates. Shame, shame, Derka. I know, but it should be an entertaining time, so be sure to come back on Sunday. Usually 12 CST is when we do our streaming over here, and I would love to see you guys there. All right, this is Derka signing off. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.